viewers, and welcome to the morning programs, the Dailies on Equa Television International. I'm your host, Sela Elisha Dasham, and my co-host is Rachel Tanzey. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Sela.
How you doing this beautiful morning?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Yeah, as usual, we shall be going through the papers and especially the Nigerian newspaper to see what is currently happening in the nation. So you can actually drop your comment on our official Facebook or YouTube pages, and also at 9:30 we will open the phone lines where you can call us and let us hear what your views are concerning most of the stories that are trending on the papers this morning. And Rachel, let's start with the first paper, which is the Nigerian News Direct.
On the Nigerian News Direct, NCC receives Cybersecurity Award, votes for safer internet. 890 youth sponsored by LASG graduate from Film Academy. NLNG calls for more investment to ensure reliable LPG support. And the big story, motorists in Lagos and Abuja battle for fuel scarcity. And the rider says retail outlets to raise fuel price in Ogun, Oyo, Kwara, Ondo, Osun and Ekiti. Ibman blames private depots for hike in price. Operational logistic challenges responsible for scarcity. This is coming from Moman. And there is enough supply, NMDPRA. Situation to stabilize in 2 days. This is coming from official sources. Nigerians groan as price risks stabilizing above 200 naira. NNPC keeps mum. And you can continue reading more about the fuel scarcity on page 21. Still on the Nigerian News Direct, Nigeria's Dangote refinery will transform downstream sector. This is coming from a Ghana Petroleum Authority. I will resign if anyone proves I promise to hand over to him as governor. This is coming from Wike, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
Let's take a look at the National Economy newspaper, and we're having a table here where you can see the currency, the buying, selling, inflation rate in 2022 compared with that of 2021, and presently the commodity prices. So you can do well to get the National Economy front page, and you can read detail of that. The big story, 8 months to go, fuel subsidy dilemma poses more headaches for Nigerians' weak economy. The writer says 6 trillion naira projected yearly spend on fuel subsidy remains a big concern. The big story here, you can actually, the picture story, you can see where we are having people actually queuing up with gallons and jerrycans just to get the fuel. And we hear that the federal government plans to halt the costly petrol subsidy by June 2023. Experts have long foretold that with Nigeria's revenue constantly toiling, it is only a matter of time before subsidy is ditched. Many of these experts have been consistent in maintaining stage 4. And I think this is really issue of petrol.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about the adulterated fuel that we started the year with, or are we going to talk about the issue of when we had scarcity left, right, and center? Presently, with the flood, we're still having another fuel subsidy, fuel scarcity, and we can see that people are actually, projecting. Experts and marketers have been talking the hope of the common man. That is number one. Secondly, with all this fuel subsidy we've been paying, we've not seen it being, actually relieving the stress on the common Nigeria, because presently right now commuters and even people that are owing medium and small businesses, you're buying a liter at 200 naira, and that is the more it's getting. In fact, it has gotten so bad because from the earlier paper you read where we saw that even gas presently is becoming scarce. You need to see even here within the plateau environment where you can see people queuing up with their cylinders, not just the petrol but even with their cylinders to get the gas. So you can see how things are actually going right now. I'm going to look at the flood that lots of people that have actually lose their livelihood, their farms, their properties and every other thing. Or are we going to look into the issue of fuel subsidy, or are we going to look at the fact that even the fuel is even very, very scarce? I think a lot needs to be done.
A lot.
So we need to hear what does the ANPC have to say about it, because they have been mum from the way things are looking. They have not come out to actually state anything. man is saying that they should blame retailers for the
For the
hike
hike,
in price.
yes.
So you can see that there are lots
There's
of
just a lot of back
conversation
and forth,
that,
really.
yeah, there are a lot of conversation that need to go on, because I don't see why I am a citizen of Nigeria, then I have to go through a very, very hard time to be able to have fuel. Electricity is not even costing, so I'm depending on even to have the fuel to actually run my small business. And even the fuel is very, very scarce. So I hope
Exactly.
that the government really needs to look into this, because if we're having the Minister of Employment and Labor saying that they do not want to have strike as they transit come 2023, then they need to look into making life very, very affordable,
Of course.
making life very, very favorable for Nigerians, because with the way things are going, I do not know how we hope to end in this nation very soon.
And you know, another interesting thing about this fuel subsidy is that the paper on Monday carried that we spent 11 point something
Yeah.
trillion on fuel subsidy. But you know, the funny thing is that we've lost the same, almost equivalent of that amount on oil theft.
And over.
And over. If you're to do the maths, like calculate how many barrels keep getting missing and how much they're worth, it's reaching up to that 11 or even over. So where does the problem really lies? Is it in the subsidy, or is it the theft? Let's tell ourselves the truth, because the same money we are spending on theft is the same we are on subsidy is the same money we are losing when it comes to oil theft. There just has to be a balance. We just keep saying that we have everything it takes to not be in this kind of problem, because if without this fuel theft, I don't even think we would be having this problem. Subsidy won't come in even as a problem or whatever it is. But then the government really needs to look at, is it the theft that is really the problem or the subsidy? Because these same figures are what we are losing to theft, and then we're complaining about subsidy and all of that. There needs to be balance, and then more needs to be done. Let's know where from. We are losing money because we are spending on the subsidy. We are losing in oil theft. We are losing more than this in this country. We are losing more than we are making. So there's just need to be a wake-up call.
Yeah, you know,
concerning
Richard,
that.
if you ask me, I think corruption is a problem we're actually facing right here, because
Exactly.
somebody somewhere is benefiting from the fuel subsidy,
Yes.
whether we like it or not.
Well, exactly.
Somebody somewhere is benefiting
From
from
the
the
theft.
oil theft
Yeah.
also. So I feel that the 90 days that the president gave yesterday, we're still keeping our fingers crossed. But I hope that the people that are actually behind all this, regardless of how high and mighty they are,
course.
that the rule of law will take its course on them. Let's look at other stories still on the national economy. Rising food prices. Any respite in sight, you can actually look at that on page 5, because with the inflation, you definitely know that fuel scarcity will actually affect transportation and food prices also. Why policyholders must demand claims from underwriters, which you can find on page 21. Assessing the BOI funding to kickstart your business. So for those who want to access that, you can check page 50 of the national economy and read detail of that, and that's all on the national economy newspaper.
On the New Telegraph, e-Naira transaction raised to 8 billion Naira. MDAs may deploy currency for deals. This is coming from Emefiele. This is still on Ukraine. Vessels scarcity, flood cut Nigeria's gas supply to Europe, and you can read more of that on page 27. Jonathan calls for constitutional responsibility for deep government, and you can read more of that on pages 3 and 5. Disinformation, cause of tension over foreign alert, and this is coming from the federal government. Federal government continued detention of Kanu provocative. This is coming from Iwodu. New Telegraph, Wule Shanderi wins prestigious Aviators Africa Change Maker Award, and you can read that on page 4. And the big story on New Telegraph, politics is family business for Tinubu and others. Obi replies Keyamo. The writer says as APC's campaign spokesperson labels Obaseki as Judas, lies can catapult Omo Agege to succeed me. This is coming from Okowa. Oton Kingsmen fault Atiku on alleged profiling of Fulani as terrorists. PDP will lose again, says Nkeri. And you can continue reading that on page 2, 3, 5, and 23. Still on the New Telegraph, release with health salaries of ASU members, NLC tells federal government. And Buhari to ex-UN scribe flawed negative evidence of climate change in Nigeria. Duchess of Sussex Meghan Markle reveals she is 43% Nigerian. If that is interesting for you, get the New Telegraph and find that story on page 27. And on the downside of the paper, we are deploying tech to identify rogue vessel used in oil theft. Lament boys theft affecting maritime safety revenue. Says federal government needs $400 million to reconstruct Tin Can Port. And you can read that on page 3 and 8. Court bars River APC from contesting 2023 polls. Bayelsa, Imo, Kogi get new governors November 11, 2023. This is coming from INEC. And there's a study, exercise helps prevent waking to urinate at night. This is a very important study and you can find that on page 8. And that's all the news on New Telegraph.
On the leadership newspaper, Senate to name fights all APC primaries in Rivers. Power disruption looms as federal government direct GenCos to reduce generation. And you can find that story on page 7. Autumn dumps Atiku as Tinubu tackles Obaseki over breakup comment, which you can find on page 7. And the big story here, federal government chills U.S. Embassy UK over security alert. Says its attempt to disrupt Nigeria's peace and stability. Service chief revive joint operation. Dismantle roadblocks, increase presence on highways and streets. UN alerts of plot to abduct humanitarian workers in Borno. Well, I just hope that regardless of what it is, we have to be on our toe, up and about to actually check the security of Nigerians, because if there is security, then even food security won't be a problem, even transportation won't be a problem, and even looking at oil theft won't be a problem, because all of this is actually a part of insecurity, because we are not secured, our economy and every other thing. So I hope that we'll keep our fingers crossed. The police will do their own checkup. The army will actually do what they need to do. Navy, Air Force, everybody have to be on their toe, up and about to check all of this.
And Sele, to be honest, what I don't like about this news was that on Monday, the police said they were not aware of this alert. Yesterday, they said they're tightening up security. And today, they are saying is an attempt to destabilize Nigerian people. Yes, that's coming from the, but we know that the police, they are all under the federal government. They all work hand in hand and all of that. So why is there such an inconsistency? And now that you're coming to say, are we trying to say that the UK and then the US are trying to destabilize Nigerian peace and stability? Like, why is this coming from the federal government? Because in a way, it means you're saying that this embassy or these people are lying concerning whatever alert it is, meaning they didn't mean peace by saying something like that. So before they come out to say things like this, and we made it clear that, okay, before you say you're not aware of this alert, what do you mean by you are not aware of this alert? Then yesterday, why are you tightening up security? Coming to say it's an attempt to disrupt Nigerian people. What are we going to take? Are we going to listen to the federal government, the police, or the US embassy or the UK embassy? I feel this is very confusing and contradictory on so many levels. And let the government come out like clear and tell us what should we do. I say, because we also as citizens have to look out for our own safety and be security conscious as an individual. So are we going to believe this thing, or no, we should disregard everything and like, okay, you know what, we are fine and we are okay. And like we talked about going to the market, so I can go to the market and at least do my biking very well because everything is okay without getting worried. Or should I tighten up my own security as such? So we need something very clear and precise and concerning security, so that even as individuals, we know where we are heading in the country.
I feel, Rachel, you're actually not out of point. You're very, very on point with all you said. But one thing I know is that a word is enough for the wise. To
True.
actually know what you are supposed to do at a point like this.
Of
I
course.
always say this, and I'll keep saying it. When you say something. Do not be quiet, because security is everyone's business. In
Everybody's
as much
business.
as the army, the police, and everybody, the security outfit are supposed to be doing their work. But let us not take any threat. Just like I said, there is no smoke without a fire at the end of the
Yes,
day.
that's
So I
true.
hope that they look into that. Still on the leadership newspaper, Osinbajo Jonathan Ganduji moved to strengthen office of the deputy, which you can find on page 6. CBN targets 100% cashless economy, that is going into e-naira. So you can actually check that on page 21. And on floor, we have 1.4 million displaced, 612 dead, 21 states get.
Naira recorded 8 billion naira transaction in 1 year. Says CBN targeting 100% cashless economy, set to partner on board revenue collection agencies and other. And you can continue reading that report on page 11. Petrol scarcity hits Lagos, enters fourth week in Abuja. Court nullifies APC primaries in Rivers. Party says ruling death on arrival. This is coming from Osinbajo. Why hardworking deputies run into problems. The writer says Jonathan seeks constitutional amendment for selecting vice presidential deputy governorship candidates. And you can continue reading what they have to say on page 11. And the big story on this day newspaper, this is coming from the federal government. Terror alert on FCT by foreign embassies, unverified and misleading. The writer says warnings not for Nigerians. UK insists there's increased threat in Abuja. Warns assault may be indiscriminate. Western interest targeted. And then there's a picture story where we can see the former president of the country, Goodluck Jonathan, and the current VP disputizing and governance in Nigeria. And if you want to know what they're discussing and what they're whispering to one another, just get the This Day newspaper and read it for yourself. And that's all the news on this day.
All right, let's move to the midweek Ajezra newspaper, and I'll be starting with the big story. Amid rising inflation, RMAFC to review pay of president, VP, and others. The writer flowing that say president earns 8.79 million naira hardship and consequences allowances. Federal government earlier raised duty to allowances of ministers and permanent secretaries by 250%. Workers groan over Bamil's 30,000 naira minimum wage, and over 2.5 million flood victims still uncared for. And I'd like to read a little on what the RMM is saying concerning that. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission said it has concluded arrangement to review their rumination. A statement from the RMAFC said the chairman of the commission, Mohammed Bello Shehu, gave the assurance when he paid a courtesy visit to the chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto, in his office in Abuja. Mohammed Bello stated that paragraph 32D of the part 1 of the third schedule of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, empowered the commission to determine the remuneration appropriate to political, public, and judicial office holders in the country. He informed Tambuwal that the last time the remuneration review of this category of Nigerians were carried out was in 2008, which made it even overdue for review. In a chat, the RMFA boss lamented what he described as the poor remuneration of public, political, and judicial office holders, which has them exposed to corrupt tendency. According to him, the need for that review. I have seen a magistrate that earns 150,000 naira a month. That is a magistrate, somebody who passes judgment. Ask around, it will shock you. They are all over Nigeria. They don't have housing, they don't have transportation, they have very difficult conditions of service. And you know, Rachel, when I saw this story, I am not contradicting that. But this story got me worried since yesterday, immediately the story broke out concerning that. I'm not against the fact that the president, the VP, Judicial Council, they need an increase. But then let's take a look at amid inflation that we are going through presently. During we saw where because of the inflation prices, the Minister of Labor, I quote him, where he said they are looking into reviewing the salary of civil servants and other people, because you cannot actually depend on the minimum wage, which is about 30,000 naira. Richard, you and I know what 30,000 naira in a week or two. This money is over. Exactly. How much is a bag of rice? Just yesterday a bag of rice is now 50,000 naira. That means even your minimum wage cannot get you a bag of rice.
True.
And there are very little organizations have even looked into reviewing the salaries of that. And then we even blame some of these organizations. Why? Because even the federal government has not even done anything about that. Coming at a point like the where we say we have to borrow to actually, pay our, our budget for 2023. We do not have all that is needed. Look at the flood victim. Lots of people are still waiting for the federal government to bring in, relief materials. And then I feel that this is a very, very bad timing. If you take a look at the allowances most of these public office holders hold, I remember during there was a time that a bill was about to be passed in the House of Reps, where they said that all public holders should not send their kids abroad to study. They should all study within the country. That bill did not even see the daylight at the end of the. In fact, while he was still speaking, he was shot. They were laughing in the house, telling him to sit down. I definitely that bill did not pass. So when you begin to look at issues like you begin to ask, what is the hope of the common man? Where we're still fighting. Not every state has even passed that 30,000 naira minimum wage, as I'm speaking to you presently, Rachel. So I think this is a conversation that really, really needs to go on. If we are saying that this has already been concluded, that means this is already going to be passed before the present administration will step down. So I just hope, and I am actually, like I say, speaking to the conscience of the Nigerian government to really, really look into this. I mean, it's a pity some civil servants have not even seen their pay from March till July. And how do you expect them to, to leave? If you say that these public office holders will be exposed to corruption, how about the other people that are working? They will be exposed to corruption, definitely also. So I'm looking forward to where the government will actually, go back and cross-check. Let it not just be that what the Minister of Labor said will end on his lips, but we need papers. We need it to be carried out that before the end of this year, something should be done about that. And I think that will go a long way to solve some of the problems we are having in the nation presently.
When I saw your story, the first thing that came to my mind is, do we really want to grow? Because this doesn't look like a decision of a country that has growth in mind. This is a bad timing. And looking at, you've mentioned everything that is going on in this country, things that are more pressing than this. That's the truth. And I wonder, do we want to grow? Because I don't think anybody with a growth mentality and the current situation of this country will put this as an important thing at the moment. Because it shouldn't matter. You said with it coming out like this, it means very soon it's going to take place with the current administration. This is not about when the new government comes in or anything. This is something that is about to happen. I don't feel that there's a thought towards growth in this. And until we learn to prioritize what is important in Nigeria, making the right investment, growing our agriculture, until we learn to prioritize what is very important in this country and tackling the issues that need to be solved, to be honest, we will not grow. We will remain a developing country and we will not smell development. It's just going to be difficult for us until we learn to prioritize and follow things as they should. What is the real problem in Nigeria? Is this really a problem? Like, let's be honest, is this really a problem amidst the thousands of problems we have? Is this really a problem that you would bring it and even solve it already? Because as far as I'm concerned, you have already solved this problem. It's the littlest compared to the bigger problems we have. Until we start prioritizing things appropriately in this country, I don't think we have a growth mentality. If we keep doing things like this, we'll keep remaining in the same place because we are borrowing to do this. Because that's And all of that, and this is really sad.
Really, really. So I hope that they look into that, even though I feel the judiciary actually need a review because some
They
of their
do.
state is really, really
Yes,
not a very
of
poor
course.
state. But I hope that, just like you said, that we put our priorities right in the country. Still looking at other stories on the Jezra Made with Paper on 2023 politicians covering number plates as are criminals coming from the police. Well, you have to read detail why they said that on page 10. Court notifies APC primaries in Rivers sack candidates. And we have the external debt rise to $40 billion in 7 years coming from the debt operation, which you can find on page 23. 21 justices transfer, not about Nnamdi Kanu appeal, court explains. 45 billion naira USSD debt, e-payment failure causes queue frustration in banking halls. And INEC has fixed November 23rd for Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi Guba elections. UN raises alarm over planned abduction of humanitarian worker terrorists in Borno. So I hope that Borno do something to protect the lives of all these humanitarian workers helping out there. And we are losing human resources in geometric progression on though NMA laments. This is talking about health, and yesterday we saw it, more doctors are leaving. I think over 10,000 doctors have left. So, and then we saw where we have 10,000 patients to one doctor, and more are actually leaving. You can see that we are losing lots of brains out of the country. So the government really needs to look into that also. Nigeria must get it right in 2023, coming from ECOWAS, and I hope we realize that we need to get it right, and that starts by you getting your PVC to change that narrative. Well, you can find a story on page 26 of the Jezra Made with Paper, and that's all. So we really love you to call us when we're back from the break. Do not go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Still the Dailies on Network Television International. We've been looking at that the RMFC boss is actually, looking into the increment of salary for president, vice president, ministers, and also the judiciary. And there are a lot of other stories on the paper. The fact that the federal government is trying to say that the threats warning that came from the US and UK is actually to disrupt the peace screen. Do well to call us, and we'd love to hear from you. I'm still here with Rachel Tanzi. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this.
Welcome.
All right, let's move to the next paper.
On the Guardian newspaper, How Rogue Ships Become Invisible in Nigeria Waters by NPA. Jonathan canvasses constitutional rules for deputy governors. Court nullifies APC primaries in Rivers. Appeal Court clarifies 21 justices transfer, says panel on Nnamdi Kanu not targeted. And the big story, petrol nears 200 naira per litre as ex-depot price debts logistics escalates scarcity. And the rider says fuel queues will disappear in 48 hours, Maman says. Ipman blames private depots for shortages. NMDPRA assures of robust supply. U.S. to worsen petroleum scarcity with proposed export ban. And on the downside of the paper, Tinubu Atiku absent as Obi and others unveil agenda for women. And you can read that news on page 6. And there's a picture story of the queue, and there's also another picture story of the new British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak shaking the present King Charles, and you can read more of that on page 3. And that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, we have why we transfer 21 justices coming from the appeal court, still on the case of Nnamdi Kanu, which you can find on page 4. Federal government names building after the late Ezezu San. which you can find on page 27. Big story, which is on most of our paper: fuel scarcity spread, transport fares soar. Lagos, Abuja paralyzed as Ipman blames depots. You can see the queue, very sad. So we hope something will be done about that. So we look forward to the 48 hours that have been promised to us. Tinubu, Obi and others unveil agenda for women, which you can find inside the paper. We won't support same-faith ticket support group declare. Nigeria ready to become global vaccine production distribution hub, coming from Buhari. And I hope we're doing to that, because we can see that polio is gradually coming back into the shores of Nigeria. So we hope we'll look into that too. And in the issue of flood, we have INC, IYC accuse Buhari federal government of abandoning the Niger Delta. I will resign if anyone can prove I promise to make him my successor, coming from the River State Governor Wike. A federal government deploys security allowed by foreign embassies. Forfeit your enviros, can't tell churches. And the last story: Senate federal government clash over multi-billion naira employment scheme, which you can find on page 28 for those who are interested. And that's all on the Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, Otom Benue elders withdraw support for Atiku. Kogi, Bayelsa, Imo governorship polls fixed for November 11, 2023. Still on flooding, climate change hurting Nigeria, says Buhari. EFCC to go after lawyers. Salary review for Buhari, governors, Chief Justice of Nigeria and others. Court nullifies River APC primaries. 3 in race for Ekiti Speaker. And the big story on the Nation newspaper: petrol ex-depot price raises to 178 naira per litre. And the riders say queues spread in Lagos filling station. Our stock sufficient for 24.82 days. This is coming from NMDPRA. We will sell fuel for 200 naira per litre in Southwest, says Ipman. NNPCL depots empty. And then there's a picture story. Ayatollah leads supporters in 9.2-kilometer walk for Tinubu and Shetima. And you can read more of that on page 2. And on the downside of the paper: OAU students dead. Oshun Chief Justice fumes over Adedoyin's absence in court. And you can read that on page 2. And that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
Moving on now to the Punch paper: Tinubu, Obi on full agenda for women, Atiku absent, which you can find on page 42. And on the flooding, okay. Federal government plans intervention, 4,612 killed. We have a caller. Hello, good morning. Hello, are you there? Good morning. Okay, maybe I'll end the call. If you can call us back again before the end of the show, we'll truly appreciate that. Still on the Punch newspaper, we have the big story: Jumbo Severance Package. Buhari, Osibanjo, others to get 63 billion naira pensioners kick. The writer following the story: ministers, governors, commissioner, National Assembly members, special advisors to benefit. It's inhuman, pensioners who work for 35 years not pay for 10 years, coming from the union. Hello, Chidi, good morning.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello, Chidi from Kaduna, can you hear me? Okay, your voice is very, very far.
Hello?
Okay, go on, please.
Yeah. I want to pick the newspaper headline. They will stop fuel scarcity in 24 hours.
Okay. If you can call us back again, Shida, I would truly appreciate that. As we're still looking at the Jumbo Severance Package and this inhuman pensioners who work for 35 years not paid for 10 years. This is coming from the union. Other stories here: economic slam politicians said they are insensitive RMFAC to review renomination, and just like we've actually spoke about that. So I hope that more will be done about that. The fact that if pensioners have not been paid, then you know what that means for us. Fuel scarcity grounds Lagos, Ogun, Abuja commuters stranded, and you can see the picture story in Abuja and Lagos. Lagos Ibadan Bridge joint reopens, driver slam Julius Berger, which you can find on page 4 and 5. Max gunmen abduct Lagos motorists in broad daylight. We have to do more about that too. And Bayelsa, Imo, Kogi governor post holds November 11. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Nigerian Tribune, Oyo Governor falls Fashola on Lagos Ibadan expressway delay. Kogi Imo Bayelsa governorship elections to hold November 2023 till on oil theft. Rogue ships turn off identification service to avoid detection. This is coming from
Sorry, Rachel, let me cut you.
NPAMD.
We have
All
Yaya.
right.
Hello, Yaya. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello? Can you hear me?
Please go on.
Okay. My take is on the no, my take is on the security alarm by the Americans and the there's going to my voice is echoing back. I cannot hear you. I can't know whether you are hearing me. But my voice is echoing. I'm not hearing you. You can't allow me to listen to what I'm talking.
Hello, Mr. Yaya.
My take is on this alarm given by America and UK. See, our government is always running away from this. They don't take advice. These people, that before they come up with that information, they have intelligence gathering and they monitor things before they come out. So the white man does not just speak anyhow without seeing anything. But this government doesn't want to take correction. Things have to relax until after the has been carried out before you see them running about saying they are on top of the situation. They should please protect our lives. Because that is the most common concept of any government. Secondly, about the proposed increase in salary for the politicians, top politicians and the president. I say it is unwise because the money they are earning presently, if you divide it into 1,000 places and pay 30,000 minimum wage to worker, I think it will go over. They want to pay money for just weekend. Because the Minister of Labour will tell you that the 30,000 naira minimum wage will not be implemented in the state because there is no cost. But when it comes to the price of the top politicians, that is fine. They want to borrow money to do politicians due salary. It's very, very unfair. Very, very unfair. And then look at the flooding that has been causing devastation. You only hear that the federal government has sent relief material.
Mm-hmm.
To who? They enjoy all the action of this government from paper and not study on ground. This government should have the care of God and do the right thing. That is my thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Yaya, for that contribution. And let's move to other papers. Rachel, is that all?
No, still on the Nigerian Tribune. I am 43% Nigerian Meghan Markle reveals. Sunak meets King Charles III, assumes office as UK Prime Minister. Nigeria remains secure with us, APC replies Obaseki. And the big story, court nullifies APC primaries in Rivers. And you can read that story on page 2. And on the left side of the paper, marketers sell petrol at 195 naira as Q returns. Why we transfer 21 justices.
All
This
right,
is coming
all right.
from
Sorry,
the
Rachel, we have
court.
another caller. Hello, Chidi. Thank you for calling back.
In the next 48 hours, I don't see it being possible come from Kaduna to Benin
Mm.
almost 3 times in a week or 4 times in a week due to my business stuff. So all the fuel now is stored on the road. Some of them fell to last because of the bad road.
Mm.
From this Ekoma to Awuchi, the road is as I take all the pictures, the road is bad.
Wow.
I fall every
Mm.
day. There are some people that are on the line for like 3 weeks. The motor cannot move half kilometer. So, yeah, and all those people are coming to the north. So, and they are being stopped there because of the bad road. How do they expect them to get fuel in the north there? Definitely, even in the west, definitely they should expect the fuel scarcity. Because there is no fuel. It's because we don't have road. We don't have road. That is the problem. I left Awuchi yesterday by 6 o'clock, getting to Kaduna by 11 o'clock. Imagine, if I'm going to Togo. And we are doing pipelines from Nigeria here to Niger Republic while we have roads that we need to fix. We are not doing what we're supposed to do. So it's very painful. Especially like we that travel on the road.
Route.
Very painful. A journey of 8 hours or 6 hours, you end up spending almost the whole day, 8 hours. It's very painful. And they are talking of pipelines giving Niger fuel. This year we have the Niger supplying them giving road to Niger, pipelines to Niger. What business do we have? It's running from Niger. This is from Niger. She tell us. Then let's know. So it's very painful. It's very painful.
I understand, Mr. Chidi. Thank you so much for that situation report over there. It's quite sad,
It is.
looking at the fact that because of our bad roads, and that is why we're having, and to make it worse, even the flood presently has even made it more worse for our Chidi cars. Just like Chidi called us that he left Auchi yesterday to Abuja, to Kaduna, sorry, and then imagine if a journey of maybe you have actually budgeted 8 hours, 9 hours, you end up spending the whole day. So people have been on the queue for over 3 weeks or so. We just said almost the same thing about the fuel and even gas right now. People are queuing up with their cylinders. It's really very sad, where we are hoping that things will get better in the nation. And Nigerians are watching. We are the conscience of the society, and that's why we love to bring this to light to let the government know that possibly these are areas they are failing. Okay, we have another caller. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Good morning. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Can you hear me? Please go on. I can hear you. Please go on. All right, Mr. Emmanuel, go on. Thank you so much. This is another caller. A lot of people are calling in to, express their grievances with the way things are happening. They're suffering as a result of the flood, the fuel, and definitely food prices will be high, transportation will be high, and all of this. So we hope the government truly look into this, because possibly their attention is somewhere else. So we're drawing their attention to what is presently happening. Let's not get so carried away with 2023 election and forget that lots of people are suffering, are going through lots of hardship. So we hope that something will be done on that. Please, let's go on to the continue with the paper, please.
Yes, still on Nigerian Tribune. Lagos set up inquest to unravel cause of IVD's wife's death, and you can read that on page 26. Police arrest suspected kidnappers, armed robbers with goods worth 25 million naira in Oyo. Atiku visits flood victims in Bayelsa. Underwriter says promises to complete Dashin Hausa Dam to manage release of excess water from Lado Dam.
All right, sorry, Rachel. Let's receive this call. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Good morning.
In those days, when they were abroad,
All right. Sorry, Mr. Emmanuel, I have to cut you short. It seems the network is a bit bad, but I think I actually got the message talking about the way things were then and the way things are
course.
presently. And we're actually hoping that it will get better.
It will.
We've not actually lost. All hope is not gone,
It's not
Rachel.
gone,
I believe
yes.
that things will get much
Course.
better. Please round up the story on the
All right.
paper.
Still, the writer says, urges federal government to establish temporary fund for farmers, pledges 50 million naira to victims. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at the Metrics newspaper. How Pastor Adeboye named me Abraham, father of the nation, coming from Tinubu. For those who are interested in that story, grab the paper and read detail of that. I will resign if anyone proves I promise to hand over to him as governor, coming from Governor Wike of Rivers State. And we have Ipman blames private depot over hike in fuel prices. You can actually read that on the front page. And on oil theft, we have how vessels operate undetected in Nigeria. The writer flowing that story, NMAMD opens up saying Nigeria lacks technology to detect the vessel in the nation waterways. Reveal how rugged vessels switch off automatic identification system. Well, I hope there's more to this. I do not know why. I just don't want to believe that they go
Yes.
undetected, because
Of
these are not
course.
spirits.
Yes.
These are vessels that we see.
Of course, that they
and
move.
a lot, something is just fishy, I believe.
A lot
Something
is
is fishy.
fishy.
Something is just not
Exactly.
okay. It's either we're having snitches in the Navy
Of
or we're having
course.
snitches in the customs. Something somewhere is just not going okay.
Exactly.
And I hope that with this 90 days that the federal government
course.
or the president have given, we'll be able to dictate what the problem is, who are the people that are working,
course.
because this is not a business that a poor man can actually
Of
operate. We're
course.
talking about the big, in fact,
Big.
permit me to use cooperatives, because you dress in corporate, but innerly you're actually
are.
a robber, robbing
Exactly.
Nigeria of its wealth. So I hope that the federal government will be able to dictate those and whoever
course.
is behind this.
And you know, I've been seeing this story on the previous paper, and it doesn't make sense for me, because how can you say you lack the technology to detect vessels? That's also a very sad thing. This is your major source of income. You're supposed to have every technology it takes to detect vessels coming in. And apart from that, why are they sounding like Nigerians don't know what is possible or what is done on the seas? There are supposed to be smaller boats patrolling. So like the same way we have police patrolling the streets in our country, going around to see what's happening, is the same way on sea. There should be smaller boats patrolling to see what is going on, because it's not only this oil theft. We have pirates on sea. We have pirates on sea. So are you trying to tell me that you don't do patrol in smaller boats in this sea? Then it means you're sleeping. It means you're not doing your job, because if these ships shoot, in quote, turn off whatever it is it takes to detect them, then your patrol should be able to pick them up. You're supposed to patrol on sea with smaller boats, taking surveillances and seeing ships from afar. This is the standard I know on our waters, and it is done everywhere. And if we're not doing this as a country, then it means we don't value this oil at all.
True. So I hope, Richard, that this will serve as an eye opener, that for whoever is sleeping, please, you need to sit up and do your responsibility, take up your duties. Still on the Metrics paper, we have on terror attack alert. FCTA raises security level, unveils operation Dakin Gagawa, which you can find inside the paper. Dele Momodu accuses Bola Tinubu of being a potential dictator, which you can find inside the paper. Other story here, we have all for taming climate change challenge. Former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and President Muhammadu Buhari at First World Bio Summit 2022 in Seoul, South Korea yesterday. Hello, Mr. Yaya. Thank you for calling back.
Thank you, ladies. You are doing very nice job here.
Thank you, please.
I just want to continue on the topic we are just doing now, the oil theft.
Okay, please go on.
You see, the code in Yoruba has been so bad, that the jam that is the cola inside the not outside the cola. Look at the defense that the federal government is trying to bring up about checking of that issue. The ship is not something you can put in the pocket. It's not something you can hide by a cloth. Instead of 2-3 houses. the security agencies, I refuse to agree with them. There's internal collaboration because you have to look up on the you have the first of all, you have the Nigerian Dailies, you have Marine Police, you have Amphibian Division of the Nigerian Army, you have the various customs and immigration and rest of it. None of them can detect a ship because it's up to life.
True.
What of the possibility of the ship? If the army is announced that the sea is always very focused on security agencies, and one patrol post as one of the partners against one of the issues of the program. This is a real working on Nigeria. While we have an aspect, some people have honored it, and then they prioritize to themselves why the basic problem for us to go and pay money to pay salary to do everything is really unfair. Like this exactly, I think this the issue of banks in the north. The only thing of banks in the north is illegal banks of gold that gold deposit in that bank. It's supposed to be a federal asset like the oil, but the new company just honored it and the protect that as such as the government that protect their oil and their gold wealth. They have moved down to the east, to the south, stealing the oil illegally and calling it to cover up. What is bankruptcy? Bankruptcy is armed robber that lives in the bush. There are three types of armed robbers. The general one is known as blood road, number one. Then those on the sea is called sea pirates. The one in the bush is called armed bandits. They are all armed robbers. You can see that when those on the road are caught and robbed, they are the same firing squad. They are not even down to the first. The one in the east, you can see sea pirates are also killed without any defense, even down to the first. But the here, the Angola, that's to the north, they are being called the center part, and they are being used. This federal government has them a lot of explanations to make them now after they are saying this is not carry the government there. 2 months but this is very
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Yaya.
very
You've
much.
just really sum up everything we have to say about this oil theft. And what he said is not far from what we've actually said. But I hope and I believe that Nigerians are actually very smart. They know what is happening. And just like we said, the government should do what they are expected to do. Well, that's how far we can go on the program this morning on the Daily. Thank you, Rachel, for doing
You're
this
welcome.
with me. Thank you to all the crew members. Thank you to our callers that actually make a very powerful impact and also contribution during the program. Do have a blessed day ahead.